So what that means is the moment a baby is born, no matter if it's a C-section or a natural birth, the moment the baby is born, the outer symbolism in the sky by the planets shows in symbolic language what the person has, so to speak, or the soul has, so to speak, as subconscious memories, talents, fears, or abilities on their soul chip card. And those subconscious memories will then, by parental, social, religious imprint, be, so to speak, reactivated. So the whole childhood and uprising, like to become an adult, is nothing than to reignite the old memories on the chip card in the new physical form of a person, a personality, to get the person back in that culminated information of a culmination of previous life incarnations. That sounded quite complicated, but it's actually quite simple. So to get into that, one needs to understand the very basic of astrology first. And usually there are two ways to embrace astrology. The one that is very common by books, marketing, those kind of things, is the left brain form of understanding astrology. Meaning you look up a sign, then you flip in a book and you read, oh, that means that and that and that. But that is as if you would play a piano by just, oh, where's the C? C. Where's the D? Oh, there's the D. It's not virtuous. But life itself is virtuous. So therefore, I can only ask you to open up your mind, and not only from the logical or left brain, but also to the right brain, the intuitive, holistic form. That is why it's also important that when you start beginning to dive into the astrology, that you learn the astrological symbolism, meaning you don't write down Aries or Taurus in letters, but you use the symbols, because symbols are better understood by the right brain hemisphere. And the right brain hemisphere is very linked to the heart. So over time of practice, that you shall allow yourself to expand your consciousness, not only to learn things in a one-step two logic, but to expand to that what is called knowledge. Knowledge comes without learning. Knowledge is coming from the holistic side, and we perceive that from the right brain hemisphere, like the arts and everything. And astrology is an art, or for many, many centuries in ancient time, astrology was seen as the queen of science. Why? Because it actually creates a symbolism or a synthesis between the logic, the measurable things, i.e. Jupiter takes exactly 12 years to circle around the sun. That's logic. We can measure that, left brain. But what it means in a holistic meaning, that would be the right brain hemisphere. So what I'm trying to do throughout this whole video course is I'm inviting you to, on the one hand, learn those words, those keywords, those archetypes with your left brain, to then let them drop via the right brain into your heart of knowledge. That's the whole trick. There are usually two forms or two types of students. There are the left brainies and there are the right brainies. The left brainies always have the sense they don't know enough, they need to read another book, they need to look it up, those kind of things, which is very good. But they don't trust the right brain hemisphere. Well, it could be different. How should I know? I better I'm not ready. I need to do another class. The right brainies are very intuitive, even to the extent of being psychic. But some psychics, which is beautiful, and I honor them, but some psychics lack of being with their feet on the ground. So the thin line between a psychic or intuitive knowledge and just a pure fantasy, wishful thinking is very clearly not definable. So for someone who feels that they're very intuitive, it is a necessity to study the keywords of astrology for you when you have intuitive insights looking at astrological symbolism, that while you get the insights from the symbolism, that you double check with the logic of your left brain if the words and images and intuitive senses that you pick up are in alignment with the symbolism in the given chart that you might do an analysis for. So that's basically what is to be said for the introduction. And what we're going to do is, first we start as simple as possible, and that will be that we have, in every given chart, we have 3 levels. So every horoscope is basically, even if you have it on the piece of paper, 3 levels. There's the one level that we could see as the eternal level, which is symbolized by the 12 signs of the zodiac. Like out in the sky, we have fixed star constellations, and that part of the sky where the sun is going through, which we call the ecliptic, is called the zodiac. Of course, we know that the sun is not moving through the zodiac, but the planet Earth is moving around the sun. But as astrology is geocentric, like we are egocentric. Like when I walk through life, I see everything regarding to my center. So the same thing about astrology. We look at astrology and we look from the worldly point of view, and from the worldly point of view, we see that the sun within a year is moving through the background of the fixed star constellations. And as that is every time happening on the same level, it's not going like wild, basically that part of the sky where from our geocentric point of view, we are seeing the sun circling, these 12 fixed star constellations are called the signs of the zodiac. So that kind of zodiac, the 12 signs, is our very, very basis of every reference of our archetypes, keywords, dynamics, etc. But as we are born on this planet, we also have a worldly point of view, which is then seen by what we call the house system or the houses. Like, as you will see in the graphic here, the planet, due to its rotation, 24-hour rotation, we have time zones. Let's say in London there is like noon, but in New York it would be 5 o'clock in the morning because we have 5 hours time difference. Well, in London it's noon, that means the sun is high up in the sky, highest point, whereas in New York it would be still below the horizon. And that brings at the east horizon a different sign which is rising right now. That's why we call it the rising sign. Due to the Earth rotation in 24 hours around its own axis, North Pole, South Pole, we see the sky rotate from a point of view of a location, New York or London, that on the east something is rising and then it declines at the west horizon, which we call the descendant. So we have ascendant and descendant. We have the highest point of the zodiac, the so-called medium coeli, which means the middle of the sky. And opposite of it, we have the deepest point of the sky, the imum coeli IC. And those 4 axes, as I always say, ACDC, MCIC, define the first 4 quarters relative to a place and time of an event, i.e. a birth. And these 4 quarters are then divided, each one in 3 segments that we call houses or fields. There are about 52 techniques how you could divide from the ascendant down to the IC in 3 segments. The most common ones are Placidus or Koch. So the point is we have 2 levels. We have the universal level with the archetypes. Similar, imagine the divine would have 12 ingredients boxes in its kitchen. In his kitchen, her kitchen, its kitchen. The ingredients are the key to every understanding. And then there's a 3rd level, because the signs out in the night sky or in the sky in space, they cannot move. Meaning like Aries cannot say, hey, Cancer, who you are like 3 months away from me, I'm gonna come and visit. Not possible. So we do have the planets. Planet, the word comes from the Greek word wandering. Not with an O, but with an A. So the planets are always like somewhere on a walk visiting. And so we can say we have the outer zodiac, the 12 signs. We have the individual house system relative to place and time of birth, which makes a difference, right? And we do have the planets. And the planets, relative to their distance to the center of our solar system, the sun, have different time of circling around the sun. And each planet is, so to speak, a ruler of at least one sign. So it is similar to every country having a president, or as Germany, a chancellor or whatever. Now I have to tuck my mouth, or some other countries have a clown. Sorry. Sometimes my humor is just getting me. Sorry. So basically, let's say Germany with a chancellorship of like Mrs. Merkel. Mrs. Merkel is symbolizing Germany. Germany cannot come over to France. And when it did in history, it was not welcomed. It was not a good idea. Oh. But if Mrs. Merkel is visiting France or Canada or England, then the German representative, i.e. planet or planetary ruler, is now in another sign, in another cultural hemisphere. So if, for instance, the Venus is in Pisces, we have to use the archetypes. We have to first understand who or what sign does Venus rule, like Merkel does Germany. And then we need to know the archetypes of Pisces, which is the 12th sign of the zodiac. And of course, because it happens somewhere in a house, in what house? So every astrological horoscope is basically the 3 levels. The level of the zodiac, the 12 ingredients, which are always the same. Basically, you will learn the keywords of everything in life, from the smallest to the biggest, from psychology, biochemistry, politics, money market. You can apply them everywhere. Then we have the next level, the wanderers, the transmitters, so to speak, the representatives, which are the planets. They are spinning in different speeds. As I mentioned before, Jupiter takes exactly 12 years to go one time around the sun. And we have the worldly level of an individual chart. So with these 3 levels, we can start to combine things. But before we do that, we of course need the keywords of each sign, the planet that rules over that sign, and the correlation to the house